introduction. As a note to everyone on this call, today's session is being recorded. This is a joint session from Veritas and State Informatics Limited. Over to you, Kishan.
Hey, thank you, Nitish. So hi, everyone. Good afternoon. Just give me 1 second. Share. This one. Share. So can you see my screen?
Yes, we can, Kishan.
Okay, thank you. So hi, everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us for this webinar organized jointly by SIL and Veritas. The theme today on which we are going to talk is about a new way to manage data complexity. We shall talk on the various tools and solutions based on Veritas technology that can help you in managing your data more efficiently. So guys, welcome to this webinar. I myself, Kishan Muracha, account manager at SIL, and I will have Mr. Prakash and Mr. Brian as co-speakers for today's webinar. And we shall also have Mr. Nitish and Mr. Yogesh as moderators for this workshop. The agenda. So I will be doing the introduction part, and during which I will talk a bit about SIL in terms of who we are and what we do. I will also talk about our partnership with Veritas and our expertise with data management solution. My two colleagues, they will go deep dive on the different solutions in terms of data availability, data protection, our cloud offering, and data compliance. Following that, Mr. Prakash will present some case studies based on solution which we have already implemented in Mauritius. And then there will be a small announcement from Veritas, and this will be done by Mr. Brian. And at the end, we shall have the QA session. So guys, maybe have you seen, we have already put everyone on mute. But given that we want that this webinar to be very interactive, so if you have any questions or views that you would like to share, we request you to use your chat box and our moderators will respond to you accordingly. And during the QA sessions, you will have the opportunity to ask your questions directly to the speakers. And here we request you to use the raise your hand feature of Zoom, and we shall unmute you accordingly. Is it okay?
Yes, it's okay.
Okay, I move to the next slide, that is introduction. Well, SIL at a glance. Well, we are a company with more than 30 years experience in providing IT solutions, both locally and in the region. And during these past decades, we have completed more than 300 projects in Mauritius and in Africa, and thus gaining expertise and experience in different sectors and industries. As an ISO certified company, we have well-defined methodologies to provide total customer satisfaction in implementing projects and providing after-sales support services. We have a pool of around more than 100 IT professionals with more than 400 professional certifications from global IT players like Veritas, IBM, Oracle, and so on. And in terms of expertise, we have several areas of expertise in the public sector, including financial management system, tax and revenue management, citizen identification, and so on. As you can see on the right-hand side, we also offer horizontal application such as ERP, HCM, CRM, and case management. And these solutions can be from vendor solution or from our in-house package solution such as Tamis HR, Tamis Financial, or Tamis Boost. We also provide IT infrastructure solutions, including software-defined data centers, hybrid cloud system, high availability systems, including clustering solution, disaster recovery solution, data protection, networking, and security solution. And all these implementations are being done by our pool of certified and experienced engineers. So, and we also provide after-sales support services. It can be 24/7, depending on the SLA required by our customers. And moving to the next slide. Well, as mentioned earlier, SIL has been operating for more than 30 years. And during these past decades, we have been involved in developing and implementing several systems for the well-being of every citizen in Mauritius. And we feel proud to say that these systems are still providing the essential services to every citizen along his or her life. Now I will move to the next slide. So our partnership with Veritas. Well, SIL is currently a gold partner with Veritas, and we have been in this partnership for more than 15 years, including the merging and demerging with Symantec. And I would like to say that we have chosen Veritas as a strategic partner, as it is a leader in data management solution. And with Veritas on board, we have been able to build our expertise and experience in providing high availability solution, data protection solution, and disaster recovery solution. We have a pool of certified engineers in Veritas technology to provide consultancy services, which include assistance to our customers in designing solutions to address the challenges. And our engineers have also been trained to provide professional services and after-sales support services. And currently, we have a large customer base where we have deployed Veritas solutions. And these sites include several governmental organizations, parastatal bodies, local banks, insurance, and companies in the private sector. And now, concerning data management solution, well, as you may be aware, we are living in a digital world, or we can say with digital transformation happening everywhere. I am sure this is also happening in your organization. And what we can see is that data has become the only asset that can offer differentiated values. For example, knowing your customers better than your competitor. And well, data has become a very valuable resource for every organization, and it has become fundamental for us to know how to manage our data properly. And you will agree with me, no organizations can be successful without first mastering its data and reducing its data management complexity. And do you know why? This is because of our customers. They always expect services from us anytime and anywhere. It means that we have to be always on with no downtime and crucially always secure. This can only be possible when we know what application data we have, where it is held, and how to make sure it's always available and protected from any disaster. However, with data growing exponentially and having silos and legacy systems, many organizations are having difficulties in properly managing their data assets. Additionally, with data becoming more regulated, this increases the burden of compliance and therefore adding more complexities in data management. And now you will agree with me that with COVID affecting the whole world, it has become even more complicated as most of our services are going online, including our workforce, as many organizations are adopting work from home. And to kill these complexities, we need to have the required tools that can provide all your data management needs, in terms of knowing which application data you have, where it is held, and how to make sure it's always available and protected from any disaster. So guys, now I will pass on to my colleague who will present our data management solutions in terms of data protection, data availability, and compliance. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Kishan. So I will be presenting ensuring an always available enterprise, what it means. So in today's world, IT is more than a business enabler. In every aspect of the processes which the business have, we are using IT to make it happen. So in any organization nowadays, you have a number of applications running. There are applications which are less critical, and there are applications which are mission critical. We call these mission critical applications tier 1 applications. And Veritas has the whole products to support you for the different tier of application. And why is application not available? There are three causes which makes application not available. The first one, it's the logical, where you have software defects, human error, data corruption, internal and external attacks. The other one is infrastructure problems. If your application is residing on a server and a compute nodes on storage, and you have a hardware problem, your application will not be available. And the third one is where you have site-wide threats, like having catastrophic weather, geological events, problem with utilities like power and telecommunication, and even like having a global pandemic. So how to proceed with having your application always available? Veritas has 5 tenets for availability. The first one is predictability. The second one is compliance. The third one is automation. The fourth one is migration. And the fifth one is flexibility. With predictability, you are able to meet all your RTOs and RPOs. With compliance, you are able to meet the regulatory bodies' exigencies. You are able to meet your business continuity plans, audit reports. With automation, you are able to seamlessly orchestrate the resiliency of your application and recovery. With migration, you will be having simplified tools to migrate your applications from on-premise to cloud. And with flexibility, we will be able to move and integrate your existing environment with the cloud technology. So let's look at the Veritas Enterprise portfolio for resiliency. Veritas has 3 products for enabling availability, and all depends on the type of application that you're going to protect. For tier 2 and tier 3 applications, you have net backup, AIR, you have the Veritas data mover. But when it concerns the tier 1 application, the mission critical application, here we are talking about InfoScale. So what is InfoScale? InfoScale is a software-defined optimization solution for mission-critical applications that abstracts application from underlying hardware. So InfoScale take control of the hardware, of the storage, networking, and it make an abstraction of it so that the application is not dependent on the hardware, but it's InfoScale who manages the application. And here, the abstraction is made on the physical, virtual, and cloud environment. So InfoScale provides enterprise-grade optimization for your business continuity. So what does InfoScale do? It provides you business continuity, that is, eliminate downtime. You can have flexible RTU and RPU. It provides you with performance and efficiency, maximizing your architecture. It provides you with infrastructure agility so that you can have heterogeneous infrastructure, preventing locking from a specific vendor. How it works. So InfoScale, you will see at the bottom, it's the infrastructure. It encapsulates the infrastructure. It works with the different hypervisors, operating systems, hyperconverged infrastructure, and provide an abstraction of this layer for the application. So the application knows InfoScale. The underlying layer is being abstracted. And the application from there can have different RTUs and RPUs to function. Let's look at the topology of InfoScale. So you can have local HE, that is local high availability. Here in the example, you will see there are 4 nodes. There is a mission critical application like SAP running. So with this configuration, you have a centralized storage, shared storage, and your application will be able to move from one node to the other in case you require to. There is a problem and you require to orchestrate a failover action. The next type of configuration is to have a stretch cluster. Here we have taken the 2 nodes and put it at a DL side. Okay. If you have synchronous or mirroring replication of storage, it will be a metro campus cluster, stretch cluster. Okay. That is, you will have a near zero downtime from the main side to the DL side. Within InfoScale, you can also have the failover from one side to the cluster on the other side. And here again, you will see that with a 0 RTU, with synchronous mirroring, it is possible. The next type of configuration that we can have is having a global DL, where all your local application can be seamlessly having hosted in a DL. Here, you will appreciate that the replication of the storage will be asynchronous. And the failure of the whole site can be DL on the cloud. With this example, you can see that the local data center is being clustered with the cloud provider and providing global clustering and DR solution. So how availability is achieved? Availability is achieved through the control of the application. InfoScale has the control of the application. It will detect any fault, and if required, will orchestrate a failover to the next available node. Here you will appreciate that with a shared storage, the RTO is almost 0. InfoScale provides fault detection with near zero overhead. That is, InfoScale reside and monitors application, and any glitch at the level of the application is instantly detected and action are taken to make it up and running again. So how is optimization and efficiency achieved? InfoScale manage your storage. Here, with new type of storage like SSDs and NVMEs, which are highly performance storage, InfoScale uses these features to accelerate your application. It also provides smart data tiering. It also provides you the scale out feature, the flexible storage sharing, where storage can be shared to other hosts in your infrastructure. InfoScale support thousands of storage devices and all major operating system hypervisors and HCIs. How is infrastructure agility achieved with InfoScale? So InfoScale provides you the abstraction layer, which works seamlessly with physical, virtual, and cloud. So it protects the enterprise from vendor locking. You can seamlessly replace old technology without disrupting your mission critical application. And InfoScale has been here for a long time to accompany its customers for such migrations. InfoScale have tracked industry trends for the past 4 decades. And all this has been implemented in innovative solutions for the customers. Now, looking at the business availability outcomes, you will appreciate that your mission critical application requires to be always available. Why? If the application is down, there will be a reduction in productivity. Your risk and reputation will be affected, and revenue growth will be affected also. So having an always available application running with InfoScale brings you a competitive advantage to your business. It's not only for your IT environment, but your business as a whole. So Veritas availability solution are in our daily life. In the social media, we are using Veritas availability so that the system is always up. Your national security is using Veritas for always available solution. Your banking, your internet connection, your communication, everywhere we are using Veritas solution. And globally, we can say that the top financial institutions, telco companies, investment banks, and healthcare organizations, they are all using InfoScale. Veritas availability solution has been here for more than 25 years, keeping mission critical application always available. We have more than 5,500 customers, more than 30,000 appliances protected, and more than 5,000 petabytes of data safeguarded. So if you want to have the best in the market leader in software availability solution, and you need to protect your mission critical application, it's with Veritas InfoScale. So here I have come at the end of my presentation. I would like to thank you all, and I will now pass on to Brian for the rest of the presentation regarding protecting your enterprise. Thank you.
Prakash, Nitish here. We have started to have a first batch of questions at this stage. Probably we might have some time to take one or two questions before we move into Brian. Before we go there, for all the participants, I would strongly encourage you to use the Q&A box. It should be to your far left on the toggle install bar of Zoom. As we progress, do post in your questions. We have quite a few already coming in. So Prakash, this one is directly addressed to you. And it's as follows from the customer. And he says, we need to replace our storage arrays. We are changing hardware vendor. How does InfoScale help with no downtime in that case? Over to you, Prakash.
Yes, thank you, Nitish. Very good question. So personally, I have done such implementation. So with InfoScale, as mentioned in the presentation, it abstracts the hardware from its control. Okay, so it's control the application, and no matter what you have underneath. So the customer here wants to replace its storage. Okay, with InfoScale, you can just plug in the new storage, configure using the feature of InfoScale, which is the storage foundation, mirror. So with the provision of the new storage, provisioning of the new LANs, the new system will have new LANs. So you will use these LAN, you will encapsulate it and make the storage control of InfoScale knows these LAN. So from there, you will be able to seamlessly migrate the data from the old storage to the new storage with the application running on the top. So the migration will be done at the background level. Okay. And then after the migration has been completed, you can disconnect the old storage and pursue your application, running your application on the new storage. That's how we do it. There are many technicalities in it, but that's an overview of how we do it. So thank you. For your
Thanks, Prakash. What we will do is we will shift to Brian for the next session, and then in the meantime we will keep on receiving those Q&As, which we're going to take at the end of Brian's presentation. Brian?
Thanks a lot. Prakash, can you stop sharing, please?
Yes.
Can you stop sharing the screen?
Yes, Brian. And
Hi, everybody. Sorry for the delay. So thank you, Prakash, for your introduction to the always available enterprise. I would like to cover now the lesser of the tiering arrangements. And just please remember that you post your questions in the Q&A section, and we will answer your questions either as we go through, or we will answer the questions at the end. So with the area that I will be covering is that we will be covering, so Prakash did the tier 1 level, so all of your mission critical applications. But these days, it's not about just your database, your mission critical environments. It is also about the rest of the environment. So it's also about your applications. It's also about your tier 3 systems, where you're not mission critical. It doesn't have to be a near zero downtime, but you have to be back up within a day or between half a day. And how do you manage the rest of your environment? And what we do here is we offer our resiliency platform. So our Veritas resiliency platform, it is marked here as VRP. And what that is a centralized console and platform that allows the orchestration for your entire enterprise environment, whether it's on-premise, DR data center, it could be DR to the cloud, and it could be a cloud-to-cloud environment. And that is all managed by the VRP orchestration console. What it means is your InfoScale environment that is deployed, your VRP, so your resiliency platform, and your net backup replication of your tier 3. So we use automated image replication between sites to allow for a 4 to 4 hour plus recovery point objective and a near zero RTO. So those are the platforms I will be discussing now, is how net backup and VRP allow you to do this orchestration. So we went to our customers and we asked them what they would like to see for IT, and the answers were, I need to protect everything. I need to be able to do this at scale. I need solutions to orchestrate and automate. Obviously, with the cloud, a lot of the cloud and the new hyperconverged platforms, containerization, has led the marketplace to be a fully orchestrated and automated environments. And we need to follow suit. And we also, obviously, the customers have advised that they need their data secure and recoverable. So as Veritas, we've gone through to see what success would look like. Obviously, we would need to support all workloads for the ultimate flexibility. We need to be able to allow customers to consume any form factor or deployment model. So that's whether it's physical, whether it's virtual or hyper-converged, whether it's a multi-data center environment with near-site and far-site, or it could be to the cloud. And the cloud could be private, it could be public, or it could be a mixture of both private and public, therefore a hybrid environment. So we also obviously need to reduce the complexity and the operational costs to allow the customers to orchestrate and automate. In terms of the secure and recoverable data, we aiming at 100% recovery successes for all customers that were hit by ransomware in 2021. So those are our objectives to meet your requirements. So why would we use NetBackup? We offer operational simplicity. So we've streamlined a lot of the management with orchestrated automation of discovery, protection, and recovery. So a lot of the environments now, instead of having to manually discover new databases, new VMs, new containers that have been deployed rapidly in the environment, we now have discovery tools within NetBackup that can discover the rapidly changing environments. Obviously, once we've discovered it, we need to protect and recover those environments. We also offer enterprise-grade resiliency for the business-critical data at any scale with near zero recovery point objective and 4+ hours for your recovery time objective. So in terms of choice and flexibility, we ensure that we support any cloud, any workload, and any deployment model. So we support all the legacy environments on premise that most of our customers know us for. We also work in the cloud. So we can deploy our solutions in the cloud to support any of your workloads that have been migrated to the cloud. And these could be virtualized, they could be hyper-converged platforms, and they could be containerized platforms. So our motto for NetBackup is that you will always be protected and your data will always be recoverable. So we'd just like to go through the 3 pillars that we've announced. So operational simplicity, we've looked at 3 areas. The one area is a single source of truth, so a single place to go, which is protecting everything. We have included identity and access management into this single pane of glass to allow to delegate the right people, the right access to the right things. We also have done a lot of work on our APIs, so our automated platform integration, where we can automate all the things that you need to do. We also focus on more high-value work engineering versus operations, and that it protects everything. Just to elaborate on those, on our single source of information, our new web interface to NetBackup provides a dashboard-like interface. It's no longer just for operational usage, and it can be accessed from the computers themselves, the servers, can be accessed from your laptops or desktops, can be accessed from tablets or phones, smartphones on the go. So for those people that are either mobile or working from home, they can still access all the information from the web interface rather than having to be sitting in front of the servers in the data center. With identity and access management, we've included roles-based access controls, which delegates tasks to optimize resources. So a manager would see the dashboards and he would be able to quickly and be advised the state of his entire data management protection. Whereas a operator would not see those dashboards, they would rather see the capacity used, the amount of storage still available, so that he could do capacity planning. So you could designate your console to be fully roles-based access control, and that is, it integrates into your identity management solutions, such as Active Directory, LDAP, whatever identity management platform that you are currently using, and it can be used with two-factor authentication as well. In the APIs, this is to address the automate and optimize the environments. So the focus is providing high value of work and more on the engineering and less on the operations. So we wish to automate all the operational environment to allow you to optimize and performance manage your systems. So we focus on improving the environment than on focusing on running it. And we can trust that all aspects of the deployment, provisioning, scaling, load balancing, cloud integration, and recovery operations are automated. So this is a huge improvement in the previous APIs that we had in the marketplace. So that was for operational simplicity. Now we look at enterprise-grade resiliency. So we've obviously increased the visibility, so to uncover what you know, what you don't know. We've also included a lot of orchestration, as I've mentioned, to automate and recover workloads across all platforms and eliminate risk in understanding them and measure the impact of change to the recoverability. So with net backup, in terms of ransomware resiliency, we make sure that we protect all your data so that it is recoverable. We also, however, detect, so we have what we call insights and visibility and reporting into your data. For example, we could be backing up a file server, and net backup with its backup tools knows that that file server changes by 5% with every backup for the last 3 to 6 months. Suddenly the backup of that file server increases to 20%. So that indicates that there's some anomalies happening on that file server, and we will report on that. And people then can go and check if there's malware or ransomware, or what is the cause of the sudden increase of activity on that file server. We also provide immutable storage. So immutable storage is where you can write to storage that is unchangeable. So it could be a worm. So it could be a physical device that provides worm, so write once, read many type platform. We also have lockdown in terms of only allowing the net backup services to access the data in the backup environment on disk-based storage. So there's no other services or no other scripting or no other applications can access the backup data. We also do a lot of solution hardening, where in our net backup appliances, we do hardened OS. We have full AES encryption, and we also have SSL certificates for the management of the data across the networks. So the other area that we've concentrated with the latest net backup is choice and flexibility. And the idea here is to support any cloud, any workload, and any deployment model. So you can deploy net backup on build it your own servers in a physical data center. You could deploy net backup in your virtualized environment. You could deploy net backup in any of the clouds. And a lot of the clouds have included pre-built net backup machines that you can get and deploy from their marketplaces. So you can deploy net backup into an resiliency platform in the cloud from their pre-built templates. We also look at any workload. So having discussed this, the one thing that we are very proud for from Veritas is the Veritas appliances, net backup appliances. They've been built now, and Veritas is the leader for purpose-built backup appliances for more than 2 years in a row. And our appliances are making deployment and maintaining the world-class net backup environment easy and cost-effective. We have a whole family of appliances because an enterprise has more than one use case. So there isn't just one appliance, there are multiple appliances. So the value of the Veritas appliances is that we have optimized integration. As a purpose-built backup appliance, we make sure that everything works together and it is optimized for the best possible performance. So as in a build it your own environment, you need to have a lot of components that work together, hardware drivers, hardware components, to achieve an optimized integration. With the appliances, that comes built in. As mentioned before, we have our hardened security. So we have a hardened Linux kernel. So the appliances are built on a Linux platform, and we've done a hardened security. We also have encryption built in, and we also have TLS security for communications across the network or in flight. So we have cloud integration. So with our appliances, you can back up to the cloud. So we can use any cloud storage for long-term retention. So we can automatically back up on-premise to the appliance and copy that off to cloud. We also have simplified management. So we have a single console that will look at all your different appliances or multiple appliances. And these appliances could be in multiple data centers, and they could be physical appliances or virtual appliances. We also have proactive support. So as many hardware vendors have, is that we have the call home facility. And we have a lot of customers that have been surprised by an engineer knocking on their door, asking to change a hardware component in their appliances, because it is an automated process that an alert comes out from the appliance that a component has failed. or may be failing, and will alert our support department to engage with the customers to have that changed up. So the range of appliances that we have is we have the Veritas Flex appliances, and these can consolidate at the core and protect at the edge. So these are built mostly for having servers at the edge or at remote offices. We also have the net backup appliances. These are fully optimized for performance, and it runs a fully featured net backup. In the same format, we have the virtual appliances. It takes all the facilities that we built into the net backup physical appliance, and we have all the drivers, all the security, all the deduplication, all of the technology that resides on that in a virtual appliance, and it can be deployed in a virtual environment. A lot of my customers that have remote offices use this format of the environment because their remote offices only run a virtual environment. They don't want any other hardware in their remote offices. So they deploy a net backup virtual appliance to do the local backups, and then they replicate those backups to the head office. The other appliance family that we have is the Access appliance, and this is a cost-effective platform, scalable for long-term retention. Just to review these appliances can go from 15 terabytes, the Flex appliance can go from 15 terabytes, or the way up to 2 petabytes. The net backup appliances, the 52 range can go from 9 terabytes up to 500 terabytes. And the 53 series range can go from 280 terabytes to 2.8 petabytes. So it's very configurable to scale out or to scale up. The long-term access appliances can go from 280 terabytes all the way up to 2.8 petabytes. So in summary, net backup gives you more choice and more flexibility. We have always done the multitude of operating systems that are out in the world. We've always done that, and that's basically from physical environments. We also do all our virtual systems. So we can do Hyper-V, Red Hat virtualization, Nutanix hyperconverged. We also do all the containerization environments such as Docker. We continue to do all the databases and applications. So we do the traditional SAPs, Oracle, SQL databases, but we also do all the new ones that have arisen, the MySQL, the Cassandra databases. We work on all the cloud platforms, whether they private or public. As I mentioned, we very closely integrated into Microsoft Azure, AWS, and Google Cloud, where our platforms are available in their marketplaces. We all do the next-gen platforms. So Nutanix, MariaDBs, and Postgres SQLs. We do a lot of those with our APIs. We continue to do support for all of the storage systems, such as, for the physical environments where you operating in on-premise. So we also do everything else. We do self-service backups. We do agentless backups for the next-gen platforms. We continue to do NAS-based backups, file system-based backups. And as such, we allow you to deploy net backup in a choice, whether it's on-premise physical environment, it could be hyper-converged environments, it could be virtual environments, it could be in the cloud. And obviously we can do on physical hardware, virtual environments, and our appliances. So I just want to change gear a little bit now and concentrate on what Veritas does in the cloud. One of the things that we do is that we
Brown, sorry to interrupt you here. Seems that we're a little bit ahead of time. There is one question probably you might want to take from one of the participants. It's around our net backup appliances, and it's as follows. So the question to you, Brian, is, do we need to buy 2 appliances, or can we start with 1?
So we would like you to buy 2, but that is not necessary. You can put an appliance down as a single appliance and then replicate that to a normal net backup environment. So you can continue to use a single net backup. So if you have a single net backup domain in one data center, you could replace that with a single net backup appliance. You would then need to make sure that you have still tape in the environment to be able to continue to do multiple copies and offsite copies, or you would have to have a second net backup domain offsite. It could be at a remote office or a DR site where your secondary offsite copy could be maintained.
Okay, thanks, Brian.
Okay, any others?
There's one around OS compatibility, but we'll take that shortly.
Okay, cool, thanks. Okay, so what does Veritas help you do? We help you prepare to move to the cloud. So one of the things is obviously when you have a rocket ship to get to the cloud, you can't pack up all your entire household and take everything with you to the cloud. You have to make sure that you prepare and only take those services or applications or workloads that are suitable for the cloud. So you need to review and prepare your environments to move them to the cloud. You also need to look at your data and make sure that you aren't taking a lot of legacy data or trivial data to the cloud. That's just adding workload to your migration to the cloud. We then help you migrate to the cloud. So we then have a lot of tools that will help you to migrate your workloads that are on-premise, whether they're physical or virtual, and migrate those off to either a private cloud or a public cloud. And then once you're in the cloud, once your workloads are working in the cloud, we continue to provide our world-class data protection in the cloud. So we don't only take you to the cloud, but we make sure that when you're in the cloud, that you operate effectively and efficiently in the cloud. So what we do to help you prepare to move to the cloud is our Aptar IT analytics platform allows you to gather all the information of your environment to make educated decisions of what should remain on premise, what should be moved to the cloud. So we can collect data from your entire data center, and it looks at all your IT assets on premise And if you have assets in the cloud, it will manage those as well. So if you don't have any items in the cloud, once you move them to the cloud, we'll continue to collect the data from them in the cloud. And what we do is we look at your applications, we look at your backup, we look at the hosts and VMs, so physical hosts, virtual machines. We also analyze the network and the storage. We correlate all of this information into silos or business units or application stacks. So we can correlate data that says, okay, for your HR department has 5 web servers. It has 2 application servers and a database server. Obviously, in that there's hardware, there's virtual machines, there's storage, there's networking. And we can correlate to ensure that we show you as an enterprise what your infrastructure is related to what service provided. So when you're trying to analyze the information, you understand that if a certain workload moves, that workload is dependent on other IT infrastructure. And you can ensure that the entire solution works, whether it's a hybrid cloud or completely in the cloud. We then present this data. As I mentioned, it can be by business units, global on-premise, cloud IT environments. You decide how these would be presented. Pretty much it's looking at a CMDB, so you can allocate each piece of equipment or item or application to a business unit or to a site. So you could have a production site 1, production site 2, and a DR site, and you could tag all of the information to make sure that you can report per the correct site. We then also provide actionable insights to plan and optimize your capacity, mitigate any risks, streamline any compliance issues, and significantly reduce your IT costs. This is the dashboard of the platform. Here we're looking at the SAN storage. We're looking at capacity based on applications. So we can look at what's in the cloud, what's in your DR center, in data center 1, and we can look at, say, your NAS storage, so your SharePoint environments, your NAS environments, file servers, etc., combine them into a single report. So once you've analyzed all of the information, how do you actually now migrate to the cloud? With Net Backup, we have CloudPoint built into the Net Backup environment, and that allows you to do snapshots of your on-premise environment. So we can do snapshot orchestration on-premise for protection and recovery. And we can also take those snapshots and pass them across to the cloud. So we can replicate those snapshots to AWS, Azure, Google Cloud, and it will arrive there in their native format. So we can do that transition from the data center to the cloud. The next level is to provide your resiliency. So what we need to do is, with our resiliency platform, it can look after all your virtual environments in your data center, whether it's VMware, Microsoft Hyper-V, VMware Cloud, what hardware it is residing on, whether it's HP, IBM, NetApp. And what we do there is we have an automated translator or data mover, and it takes the VMs from on-premise to AMI translations, put it into the public cloud, and that could be, as I mentioned, AWS, Azure, Google Cloud, Huawei Cloud. And once this data mover has moved the machines from your on-premise to the cloud, we can provide automated orchestration for failover and failback. So not only will we help you migrate to the cloud, but we can do a DR to the cloud and then fail back to your on-premise when your on-premise has been fixed. And to tie it all together, so as we mentioned in that diagram, we had the tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. So you can, with Net Backup, which includes the resiliency platform, we can now do this for your tier 2 and tier 3 environment and have it all orchestrated from a single pane of glass. So we have a single interface, unified Net Backup interface that looks after both the data protection and the resiliency platform. So we are the only people that provide a on-premise to the cloud or cloud-to-cloud availability DR solution. So with our solutions, you can have your on-premise environment that is replicated and orchestrated to a cloud, to multiple clouds, and cloud-to-cloud. And this allows you to choose where and what services need to reside to get the best performance and optimize resources and storage place. So Net Backup, why Net Backup? We have 9.6 million users. We have exabytes of data under protection. We allow you to deploy in every deployment model, and we cover you whether you're on your edge, your core, or in the cloud. Okay, so that concludes the always available and business continuity session. Please remember to, if you've got any questions, please post these in the Q&A session, where Natish or Yogesh will help respond as they have been.
Brian, we've got another 2 minutes before you start your next session, probably as a small breather for you. We've got a question around replication from one of the participants. And it's as follows. When we replicate a copy of our data to the cloud, is the replication secure?
Yes, so all of our platforms use encrypted transmissions. We have the certificate management in Net Backup. So the CA, so the certificate authority, can be Net Backup. Or if a customer has their own CA or certificates for their encrypted communication, we can integrate certificates request into a customer's CA to use their certificates. So we've built it into Net Backup to ensure that all of our customers will be fully protected, but we can also use a customer's certificates if needed.
We have another question which is on the QA panel around OS compatibility. I would be taking it, but there's no information right now on which OS this user is on. So if you can share us your detail into the question box, I'll be more than happy to assist with compatibility guides. Brian, so with that, I would let you continue to your next slide.
Thank you very much. So the next one is how Veritas looks after digital requirements and compliance. So we will be looking through an introduction. Why is it necessary? Our Veritas digital compliance solutions, and covering off with the Veritas leadership in this area of data management. So for compliance, obviously there's been a lot of information around GDPR. Just in the year 2019, there was almost $500 million worth of fines levied for people that weren't compliant. We're looking to get the 2020 figures shortly. And what we have heard is that they're a lot higher. There's obviously worldwide, we all know that data is growing and it will continue to grow exponentially with all of the new platforms that are coming on board and the always on mentality. 39% of IT execs say that sparring costs make data management harder. And obviously this is what we need to address from Veritas to make sure that your data management does not get out of control. So currently every 7 minutes there's a new regulatory alert being issued worldwide. So this is where there's been breaches, where there's been people not complying with the regulations. So 4 of the key trends that we have managed, we've actually run a dark data assessment survey with a lot of our customers. It is actually run by Vincent Bourne, and they run this every year for us, and they poll our customers on how they manage their data. And what we've come up with is this dark data assessment. It looks like an iceberg, because when you see an iceberg, you normally only see what is floating above the surface. You may be able to see a certain depth in the water and still see some of the iceberg. But there's certainly a lot of the iceberg that you cannot see. If you just try and look down here, you cannot see the bottom of the iceberg. And the way we reference these 3 sections is clean data, redundant, obsolete, and trivial data, and dark data. And as you can see, the percentages are very low for the clean data. The clean data is the data that is essential for running your business today. So your ERP systems, your reports, customers know what that data is and how it's protected, how it's managed, and they can advise you very quickly and easily where and how that data resides. We get into the second area where it's partially visible. And this is where what we talk about the redundant, obsolete, and trivial data. Redundant data is, we all know people make copies of data for various reasons. It could be for data analytics. It could be for test and dev. It could be for just making sure that there is a copy of the data, so that they have dumps, database dumps, or data dumps on the system that never get cleaned up. So these become obsolete data. And then there's the trivial data, so which is not essential for the company to run. So there's a lot of trivial data. It could be your employees' file shares that they dump their photos from their phones, or they back up their phones to those environments. So there's a lot of trivial data that is not really important for running your business. And then we get the dark data. This is data where users have left the company and their data still resides on the system. But because there's no access control for that, nobody wants to delete it because they don't know the value of that data. And nobody wants to move it to anything, but it resides on the system. And with a lot of tools, we can help you address this data. Increasing litigation. Obviously, the litigation, because of all the new regulations, the litigation and data volumes are increasing exponentially. GDPR and the California Compliance Act are only just starting. As we mentioned, there's about 500 million in GDPR fines in 2019. And we know for a fact that that's a lot higher for 2020. We've also got a lot of other regulations that have actually been around a lot longer than the GDPR or personal protection data. So the health and insurance industry, they've had a lot of things. The FINRA in America, this is the SEC, the Security and Exchange Commission. They've had regulations for many years. So questions that customers are asking themselves, are they compliant? Do we know what we have? So the visibility, as I mentioned with the dark data assessment, is how much of your data do you actually know what resides where and for how long and who has access? Are we retaining what is important? So again, the question is everybody retains everything forever because they don't actually know what is important for the company. So we should be looking at classification of your data to make sure that what's confidential, what's important, what's critical is marked and tagged and treated appropriately. And your trivial, obsolete, and redundant data is also treated appropriately. Can we find content quickly when needed? This is obviously new regulations with the GDPR or the California requirements, or in South Africa, the new POPI Act that's coming about in June, and the Mauritius Data Protection Act, is a person can request their data, what data that you keep of theirs, and how is it being managed. And the question is can you find that content quickly and cost effectively? Because if a person, you have a certain amount of time to report back to a person once they've requested that information. So how can Veritas help you with this environment? So that same area of visibility, context, and action, we can help you identify areas of risk. So analyze all unstructured data, view ownership and permissions of that data, and prevent insider threats. And what we mean by that is allowing your insiders to delete data or remove data or alter data that they should not have access to. We also ensure that data is compliant and relevant. And we also have the end user business processes, so IT and legal discovery, e-discovery. We can assist you to do subject access requests, which is people asking what data and how you're using it. And we can defensively delete information that is no longer needed. So once we've classified the information, we can start getting rid of, with the company regulations, we can start cleaning up and removing redundant, obsolete, trivial, and dark data from your systems. So the solution we use for the first area is file analytics, and we use a product called Data Insight, and it analyzes all areas of risk. It reviews the owners and permissions to ensure that nobody's opened up access to a HR environment or a legal environment, and a administrator has access to those environments where those administrators should not have. So we can ensure compliance. We can identify personal identifiable information. We can optimize data for e-discovery through the classification. So when we review all that information, we add tags or classification tags, which could be used for e-discovery. We can obviously, with those tags, we can make sure that your sensitive data is protected. So all your company confidential, secret, important data, we make sure that it is protected. The second solution is e-discovery. So it's an electronic investigations platform that facilitates the retrieval of evidence. So if there's any litigation against your company and you need to provide the information for that case, we have the tools to do that. Otherwise, you have to engage with lawyers or auditors or those companies that do the e-discovery for you, and that's becoming very costly in this regulated environments. We obviously got to continue to do it because there's continued data growth, so it's not a once-off exercise. You've got to continually do this. And obviously, we need to make sure that we keep pace with the increases in regulations. So what e-discovery does is it goes through all of the documentation that is available, and we, with the classification tags or personal identifiable information against the information, we can reduce the amount of documents that are presented to the litigation team and save a lot of costs of the legal or auditing costs. So you can see here, we do a huge cost saving for a single case with Veritas. So with the subject access requests, the SARs, we obviously do a individual has a right to obtain a copy of their personal data from any business. Public records, citizens have the right to request public record informations. And we have a product called Subject Access Request Manager, which could be deployed on its own, or obviously we can deploy the full e-discovery platform. Supervision. We can also securely monitor communications by sampling and searching for specific content that may present a risk. So we can monitor employees' communications. So whether it is on a mail platform or on a chat platform, whether it's in Teams, whether it's Zoom, we have access to connectors and we can monitor the employers, but it's not all, it's sampling. And we can ensure employees are compliant with your organizational policies so that your data that is tagged company confidential is not shared via USB drives or on the network through OneDrive. And we can make sure that people are compliant with your organizational policies. So this is our archiving platform, and it can be deployed on-premise or in the cloud. So we have Enterprise Vault or enterprisevault.cloud. So this is the digital compliance portfolio. And we with Enterprise Vault and Enterprise Vault.cloud, we can archive over 80 content sources. And we can deploy this on-premise in a virtual environment, infrastructure as a service, or as a SaaS deployment. To mention the 80 content sources, we have all of the communications. We can have samplers or areas to gain access to Office 365, Skype, LinkedIn, Slack, Bloomberg. We obviously on premise, we can have, and we can look at for files, we can look as cloud platforms on Box, SharePoint Online, Dropbox, OneDrive. We can obviously do local, so NetApp, EMC, Windows file servers, we can look at locals. We look at social media, so we can look at LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, Yammer. And once we do that, we can also capture documents via scanning and OCR. So we can index images and scanned images. So the Veritas leadership. So we've been the #1 in archive software market since 1998. We are a top player in the Radikey group market quadrant. We have increased 30% of R&D investment for 2019. So it continues to be a very focused area for Veritas. We're also the choice of 73 of the top 100 financial institutions to ensure their digital compliance. The only solution with flexible options to allow you to deploy on-premise, infrastructure as a service, virtual, or software as a service with our EV.cloud platform. So we recommend to you to gain control over your data, gain visibility, action the items in terms of the context, and ensure that you can provide e-discovery when required for litigation or GDPR SARS requests. Thank you very much. I will now hand over to Prakash for his case studies.
Ron, I think we're still doing okay on time, and maybe you have time for one question.
Sure.
With regards to e-discovery.
Yes.
Actually, that's the only question in the lot. Slightly tricky, and this participant wants to know if e-discovery tool is for IT or HR/legal.
So the full e-discovery tool that we were mentioning is a IT, HR, legal environment. We do have a slightly lesser version, if you want to, that is part of the Enterprise Vault environment. And we can do, that can be for IT. So we can go just from an IT perspective or right through to a tool for the legal to use when there's full litigation. So it can be used across the board. So it could be for IT just to make sure that they have no dark data, or that they have sorted out their redundant, obsolete, or trivial data, right through to legal cases looking for harassment, etc.
Thanks, Brian. We'll now move to Prakash for his case studies.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. So now let's look at the SIL case studies. What we have implemented with Veritas solutions. Okay, for the case study number 1, so let's look at SIL capabilities. SIL has been implementing Veritas solution for more than 15 years. We have a pool of certified Veritas engineers. We have implemented numerous Veritas implementation in Mauritius, in Africa, for both the net backup and the InfoScale products. For our first case study, we will look at, in fact, we have 2 customers having similar challenges, and we, in fact, propose a similar solution. Customer 1 is a government organization responsible for the national security. The other customer, again, is a government organization. Customer 1 requires a mission-critical application for a security application. Customer 2 requires a mission-critical application for its financial system. So what were the challenges? The critical application requires zero downtime. There was a challenge to have a multi-vendor integration, to have a centralized backup solution, and to have a simplified administration of the complex infrastructure. So our solution was based on Oracle Spark servers, EMC hardware, storage, Veritas InfoScale, and Veritas Net Backup. So with Veritas InfoScale, we were able to implement Oracle Data Guard and Oracle Real Application Cluster. With the Oracle Application Cluster, the Oracle database were running in parallel on both nodes. So in the event that one node is having a problem, the application is always up on the second node. With this configuration, we were able to attain an RTO and RPO of 0. Also, with these 2 customers, we had to have an online backup of their Oracle database. The only solution that were able to have a simplified administration and backup was to using the Veritas Net Backup. So with Veritas Net Backup, we were able to configure hot backup of the database. Remember here that the customer could not have an offline backup, that is, down the application and perform a backup. The backup here is required to be hot online without having to stop the database. It was a mission critical application running round the clock, 24/7. So such downtime were not possible. What was the benefit for the customer from the Veritas solution? For the past 3 years, it was an always available mission critical application. There was no unplanned downtime. During implementation and support, there was a smooth integration for the 3 main vendors here, Oracle, Veritas, and EMC. With Veritas InfoScale, we were able to have a highly performance and optimized solution. With InfoScale, again, the customer was able to manage and administer the cluster infrastructure. With Net Backup, the customer was able to have a simplified backup management tool. And the customer was also compliant with the DR drills required on this system. Now let's look at the second case study. Here the customer is in the logistic sector and has three mission critical application. The challenges for the customer was to have a zero downtime on their mission critical application. Again here, the customer required to have a multi-vendor integration and to also have a data protection of their heterogeneous IT infrastructure. Also to have the complete administration of this complex infrastructure in terms of high availability and backups. So here the proposed solution was Veritas InfoScale in HE, that is the Oracle database here was not active on both nodes, but was active on one node. We had also to integrate the IBM storage here with the clustering solution from InfoScale. And the customer was also having an heterogeneous platform running Solaris, Oracle, Hyper-V, Microsoft Exchange, Microsoft file servers. And with NetBackup 8.2, we were able to have a complete solution for their data protection. So what the customer has benefited from Veritas solution, and always available mission critical application, a smooth multi-vendor integration for HA. Here it's with Oracle, Veritas, and IBM. A simplified cluster administration, a comprehensive backup solution based on NetBackup 8.2. So the customer was able to back up their Unix environment, their Oracle database, online backup here, their hypervisors, their virtualized environment, their mail backups. Here, the mail backup was able to be done granularly, so individual mail were able to be restored when required. Also here, the customer was fully compliant with their DR rules requirements. Our next case study, here the customer is from the government responsible for the national security. Challenge for that customer, we required to have a backup solution for their virtualized VMware environment. Again, we had to have a multi-vendor support and also to have their backups replicated from production to the DL side. Solution here was on Veritas NetBackup appliance. In fact, on both sides, we had Veritas NetBackup appliance, and we have also a full stack of backup environment to protect. The customer here has, for mission critical application, their Tier 1 application on IBM DB2, on Windows, on Linux operating system, and all managed at the level of VMware. So we were able to back up all their VMs through the VMware agentless backup, IBM DB2 hot backup, Linux backup, and also the MariaDB backups. I think very few vendors can do the MariaDB hot backup. And with Veritas appliance, we were able to replicate using the feature of automatic image replication from the production site to the DL site. And what the customer has achieved is simplified backup administration for their complex environment. Here with appliance, the customer didn't have to manage their backup servers, their master servers. The customer also had a high performance backup system. We were able to do SAN-based VM backups. We had almost like 90 plus VMs being backup in less than 1 hour. The hot backup of the Taiwan database were able to be done effectively. And most important, all the critical backups from the production site to the DL site were being replicated using the AIO feature of net backup. So that's some of our implementation that we have done lastly. And I will thank you for listening to this part of the presentation. I will now hand over to Brian for his announcement from Veritas. Thank you.
Thanks. Can you?
Yes.
So just a quick announcement that we would like to make as part of this environment is that Veritas is planning for the end of sale for the net backup traditional licenses. And they've made a have a program running called the traditional to capacity license transfer program, and it will be running this year. We are assisting our customers to migrate from the net backup traditional to the net backup complete edition. We're calling it a T2C program. The one thing that we will be looking at is obviously this program evaluates the customer's current traditional environment and converts the licenses to equivalent data protection footprint in the net backup complete edition. The goal is to create a compelling economic conversion that offers to encourage the migration to the capacity edition. The main purpose behind this program is, as I've mentioned in my presentation, is that net backup is deployable anywhere, everywhere, in different form factors. So for us to be able to make a licensing program that will cover net backup on a build at your own server as an appliance in the cloud, whether it's on the template built in the AWS cloud or the Azure cloud, whether it's built on containers, whether it's built in hyper-converged environments, the list just keeps growing. And it's impossible for Veritas to continue doing an itemized based license model. So we're moving towards a more, you don't have to, as customers, you don't have to purchase incremental licenses to maintain your data footprint. unless you are protecting your environment outside of the traditional license entitlement. So this will be done as normally as part of your renewal process. So when people are doing the audits for their renewals, we request them to also engage to look at transferring their licenses to the capacity edition. And the benefits for you as our customers is, instead of pages and pages or hundreds of SKUs to maintain your traditional licenses, it will now be a single SKU, and it'll allow you to gain access to all the available net backup features and capabilities. And that's whether you deploying it on premise, in a virtual environment, in a hyper-converged environment, whether it's multi-sites, whether it's across a production or 2 production sites and a DR site, whether it's backups to the cloud, whether it's backups in the cloud, whether it's backups cloud to cloud. All of this will now be covered by your single SKU that allows you to manage your backups. You can now become eligible for the flexible licensing, which allows you cost savings. So with the flexible licensing, if you deploy on a physical environment, you will be charged 1 terabyte for every terabyte data that you back up. If it's in a virtualized environment, we will allow you to back up 1.5 terabytes for every terabyte of license that you have. And we have the ease of compliance on asset management through the front-end terabyte meter. And we have the tools to manage that usage, so that you know what you're using and how it is being distributed. The data protection strategy is based on the value of your data rather than the infrastructure. We understand that infrastructure as a service, software as a service, all of these services almost negate the value of your infrastructure. So we are offering you a platform that is based on the value of your data. It also allows you to obviously modernize your data protection through a unified end-to-end solution. And obviously, it will simplify your maintenance renewal process. So please engage with your partners, your Veritas representatives, the renewals teams, to review this transfer from the traditional platform to the capacity-based platform. Thank you very much. I will now hand over to Kishan for the full Q&A session.
Brian, we have been answering a few questions on the chat already, and I have kept 2 questions that goes directly to Prakash. Prakash, available?
Okay, yes, Nitish, I'm here.
So the first one is, can we use InfoScale to migrate from Solaris to Linux? I believe that's quite a bit of a trend right now.
Yes. As explained in the presentation, InfoScale abstract the hardware layer. Okay, so within InfoScale now, there is what we call the cross-platform data sharing disk. If we take, so your question was migrating from Solaris? to
Yeah, so let me repeat it for you. The question is with regards to, can we use InfoScale to migrate from Solaris? I mean, there's no specific version flavor that has been mentioned here, just generic Solaris to Linux.
Yes, we can do with the features of InfoScale. So Solaris, it has its own way to format the disk, okay? And Linux has its own way to format the disk and present the file system. On Solaris, you will have UFS or ZFS. On Linux, you will have Linux file system, TXT, and so on. So with InfoScale, it takes control of the disk. So the formatting of the disk is done at the level of InfoScale, and the file system also is done by InfoScale. Here we are talking about CDS disk and Veritas file system. So by having CDS disk and Veritas file system, data can be migrated smoothly from one operating system to the other, being it Solaris to Linux, AIX to Linux. It can be done easily. But here, remember that at the level of the forms and executable, there will be some changes to be done, like recompiling these so that the system works. So yes, it can be done.
Okay. We have one more question again addressed to the SIL team. Is InfoScale compatible with ERP solutions in private cloud? So I think they want to understand here, how do we probably provide edge solutions for ERP in the cloud?
Yes, it is feasible to have InfoScale. In fact, when we talk about private cloud, here we talk about having the ERP running on one VM. But what happens if the HCI, the hyperconverged infrastructure, is having a problem? The VM will move from one node to the other. But what will happen to the application? The application will crash. So it will not be an always available application for that ERP system. To make that ERP system, we need fully available, we need InfoScale. So here, there will be two VMs on two different nodes or cluster within the private cloud and implement the HE solution. So any issue at the level of the VM, InfoScale will know that the application is having problem. It will do the orchestration and failover to the available node. And for the customer, the application will be always on, always available.
Okay, thanks, Prakash. I think that's the last question we kept for live as a live question. The remaining have been answered on the chat box. Kishan? Kishan. Yogesh, maybe we're not able to get Kishan.
Yeah, thank you, Nitesh. So from my side, I would like to thank everyone in today's session. Especially, I want to thank Kishan, Prakash, Kevin, and the whole SIL team for taking this initiative and to organize this session. And also a special thanks to all the attendees today. So if you have got any question, you may reach us, Veritas team or SIL team, and we will happily assist you on any other queries that you have, or we can have a direct one-to-one session with you. So
Hello?
Kishan, yeah, Kishan?
Hello?
Yep. I think Kishan is back
I
online.
think I've got
Kishan,
some
over to you.
technical problems. Sorry, guys.
Yeah,
Hello?
I think
Can
we
you hear me now?
anticipated that. So yeah. Okay, Kishan, over to you.
Yeah, sorry, I think I got some technical issues here. So like we just mentioned, Nitish, so if there is no more questions from the participant, yeah, it's we can go for the closure. And before ending this webinar, so I would like to thank all of you for your time and attention. And we hope that you have enjoyed our presentation. And if you have if you want to have more information on data management solutions, or if you want any assistance from us, please feel free to contact us via email or phone, as detailed in this on this slide. And thank you again. And Yogesh, if you want to add some points for
Yeah, Kishan.
yes, you
Thank you.
can share your yeah.
So thank you. So I also want to thank you, Prakash and Kevin, and the whole SIL team to organize, to take the initiative and organize this session. And I'll convey my special thanks to all attendees today for their participation, for their questions. So on this, I conclude that the webinar is over today. So thanks everyone, and goodbye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Marim.